Tough day on the markets today, buffeted by news from overseas. Earlier I spoke to Martin Lakos from Macquarie Private Wealth. Martin Lakos, Ireland and China are unlikely bedfellows, and yet it seems they've combined together to drive both the international and the Australian equity markets substantially lower.
Yeah, Tiki, we certainly saw a lot of volatility last night out of European and US markets, all falling quite substantially on these differing concerns. Obviously, the concern on China is that its growth once again is getting out of control, and there's concerns that the Chinese authorities will be forced to raise interest rates. Now, they haven't done yet, but they are taking some steps to keep crimping that growth getting out of control, and some of those steps are such that they're reducing the applications for development loans. So they're trying to take the speculative lending out of the marketplace. Now, at the end of the day, we still see this as prudent by the Chinese authorities, and certainly they want to keep their growth in the range of 8 to 10%. In regards to Ireland, completely different story. Up until last night, the Irish government was refusing aid from the European Union, and it looks like they're now in negotiation to start to step that up. Now, that will probably ease some fears in the markets, but overall, there was some de-risking in markets last night, which saw some big falls, over 2% nearly out of the US market overnight, and certainly our market reflected that. We're down 1.6% today. The materials and energy sectors really the big underperformers. Banks, interestingly, although down only 1%, was a bit of an outperformance, and that's all despite the fact that we had Shanghai and the Hong Kong markets in our trading time outperforming our market. So we didn't fare too well today, Tiki.
Well, let's go to some specific stocks, and I see West Australian newspapers had some quarterly profit figures out.
Yeah, look, the profits came in up 2.8%. Advertising revenue growth up 7.3%. So reasonably solid there. This is for the September quarter. They did note that their costs rose just under 5%, and that they did see some slowing in their advertising intentions from their clients. However, they remain very positive about the outlook of the strengthening West Australian economy, and the stock, in fact, was down on the back of that report.
And Centro Properties says it's getting an encouraging response on the sale of all or part of its shopping centre portfolio. How did the market react?
Yeah, Centro had their AGM. Clearly the company's been going through a massive amount of restructuring. The new CEO, Robert Senon, also presented to the AGM. Certainly it's worth noting, Tiki, that they've got about just under $8 billion worth of properties in Australia, about just under $9 billion in the US. That's 600 properties in the US to manage, so a huge management job. Occupancy is running about 88% in the US as compared to here in Australia, running at nearly 99%. So no hard guessing there. Australia is performing better than the US, although they did say they think the US is just starting to see some signs of improvements going forward. Now, that stock was down about 3% or half a cent on the back of those statistics, and we've got to wait to see how the capital restructuring continues for that group.
In resources, Macquarie Coal has given some guidance on its outlook.
Yeah, Macquarie Coal was presenting at a coal and iron ore conference today. Certainly they remained very positive about the outlook for China, India and Brazil, although again they commented that their September quarter's numbers were a little bit soft. They are expecting to see a pickup, and those numbers are a little bit soft as a result of slowing steel production around the world, but they do expect to see demand for metallic coal pick up into the March quarter. Certainly the stock was a little bit was up 1 cent on the back of that, so no real new news there, and they've got a very big focus on costs going forward in the next 6 months.
Martin Lakos, lots to talk about. Thanks so much for joining Late Line Business.
Thanks, Tiki. A pleasure as always.